technical difficulties. Okay, are you there?
I am.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Laura?
I am excellent. Now, for everybody watching at home, just to give you guys an idea of what Shelby is all about, we have today an honest guide to contacting corporations, the do's and don'ts of trying to get your voice heard by those in charge, a self-reflection on your messaging intentions, and how to convey your confidence over email. And we are hosted by the phenomenal Shelby O'Neill, good friend of mine. She is the founder of the Junior Ocean Guardians and No Straw November. Some of you guys may have heard about that campaign before. It's amazing. Who has worked with companies such as Alaska Airlines, Delta Airlines, and Dignity Health to prevent over 37 million single-use plastic straws, coffee stirs, and citrus picks from entering our waterways. She currently attends UC Berkeley under the Rouser College of Natural Resources. Handing it off to you. Hello.
Hello. Oh my God. Thank you, Laura. I want to thank you guys for putting this all together and working so hard. I know it's been challenging, and I respect you guys for moving it back to a more appropriate date. I apologize for any noise you may hear in the back. I am sitting outside as I live in a really small town, and for some reason, my Wi-Fi works better when I'm outside. So I apologize for any outside noises you might hear, but I'm going to share my screen. Yes, okay. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to be talking about an honest guide to contacting corporations. Like Laura said, I've been able to work with a lot of different corporations by kind of emailing them and almost acting as a little reminder to that people see the injustice that they're causing. So anyways, okay, so a little backstory on me. I got started in ocean conservation when I was a volunteer at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I had been in the aquarium program 7th and 8th grade as a young woman in science. That's kind of where I learned all about the ocean. Being from an inland community in California, I didn't necessarily know how the ocean was being affected by things that I was doing. Actually, before I went into this program, I wanted to be a wildlife biologist, and especially like bison, because I had gone to South Dakota and I saw bison and I was just blown away. I was like, whoa. So that was my goal, to be like a prairie wildlife person. And then I went to this camp and learned about the ocean. It was just like mind blown completely, because I hadn't had that exposure to the ocean on such a personal and deep level before. So as you can see, I was showing a young boy. This is a jellyfish tube that we use on the floor to kind of explain the process of how jellyfish grow. And I learned so much from that program. This is a teen conservation leader position at the aquarium, and you learn you meet so many people, and it's just really fascinating to learn different people's mindsets towards plastic pollution, because they didn't understand how it affected them. So seeing that, I was so frustrated by people not understanding what they use for like single-use plastic straws, single-use plastic utensils. No one understood. Like, it was not evident at all during that time. So I was just like, you know what? I'm over this. I'm over people not understanding that they can make an impact. So through that, so when I was this age, I was like prime time to start my Girl Scout Gold Award, because I'd been a Girl Scout my whole life, ever since I can remember. You can kind of see on the right side photo my vest. So everything just kind of added up to me being really just mad that no one was taking action. So for my Girl Scout Gold Award, I created a nonprofit called Junior Ocean Guardians, and its main platform was to educate kids. And I had started an activity book, and I was going to classrooms, and I was talking with all these young, bright minds. And they understood after I, showed them the links that they were making a change, like affecting the planet, either positively or negatively. but they had nothing really challenging them to continue that past my presentation. So I was just like, oh my God, what can I do to have these kids understand their impact? And then I was just kind of hanging out at home, and then No Straw November just like hit me, and I was like, oh my God, this is so tangible for kids. So it really started in the classroom, being inspired by these children. So No Straw November completely took off. On the right was me testifying for a bill called AB 1884, and that's to have plastic straws only available by request in California. And this bill actually ended up passing. So this is me testifying for it in Committee of Natural Resources. And that was an amazing experience. And I'm very thankful for Ian Calderon for that. And I've done some other policy work as well. I've been able to do a No Straw November resolution in the California government system. It's SCR 139, and that declared November in California as No Straw November. But I'm not really here to talk a lot about policy per se today, so I'm just gonna kind of skip over that one. But for June Ocean Guardians, I know my little screen might be blocking this. But so June Ocean Guardians has a patch program, and we're on our 4th year, so November will be our 4th patch. So the first patch was, we have beneficiaries for each patch. So my first year was right around Hurricane Harvey, and it was just like, it was really impacting me because I saw all my fellow Girl Scout sisters like really just lose everything. And so I felt completely helpless in it. So I was like, how can I help this? How can I help them, my fellow Girl Scout sisters? Because I started this as a Girl Scout. So part of this patch proceed went to Hurricane Harvey Girl Scouts and really rebuilding their troop so they can work to rebuild their community. And then my second patch, also for my patches, you can tell what year it is by this number of straws. So when like No Straw November, hopefully it's like 20 years, I have no idea how I'm going to incorporate that many straws. We'll figure it out when we get there. But my second year was going to help elephant seals and just kind of help the elephant seals by San Simeon Beach, by Hearst Castle, the amazing Friends of the Elephant Seals there. They maintain a boardwalk, so true wildlife can be accessible to all to view at a safe distance. So this one went towards making wildlife more accessible, especially for those of us who are in wheelchairs. So that passion project went there. And then this past November, we went towards kind of educating people on systemic injustice regarding formosa plastics and just overall how plastic companies usually target minority communities, and that they put them in this system of injustice where they can't break out and pursue other fields because they just have them such in an economic lockhold, especially with jobs. And this patch is pretty eerie because it's wearing a mask, and who would have guessed, you know, a couple months later we'd be in this situation that we are in. And then this coming year's patch will 95%, little sneak preview, will most likely be about voting and hoping to kind of make voting more accessible for all and to vote with the ocean in mind. So that's exciting. So actually 3 years ago today, I was kind of pulling it back more into contacting corporations. 3 years ago today, I had my second big corporation meeting I've ever had. My first corporation meeting was the day before with Costco. This picture is from Starbucks. It's crazy that so much has happened in 3 years. So this was my first meeting. And a little fun fact about Starbucks is when you go to Starbucks as a minor and have a meeting, usually at meetings they like to do coffee tastings, but since they do not market coffee to young people, I had a juice tasting. So that was an experience. But this was the Starbucks sustainability team. At the time, this is before they had done anything regarding their straws and sippy lids. So you can see they're looking at my activity book that I hand out to kids. And if you want a copy of the activity book, you can go to my website and you can see, you can request to have an activity book. We have two options. We have one in English and one in Spanish. because those reflect my community that I grew up in. So yeah, so that's pretty crazy how it all got started. But some tools that I use to contact CEOs and different people in corporations are email and LinkedIn. Literally, you can find anyone you want on Google, and I am not the best at spelling and grammar. I'm gonna be honest. So Grammarly is a lifesend. But basically, Google is your best friend. The powers of Google are very not shared enough. Basically, what I do, so let's say I wanted to email the CEO of Farmer Brothers Coffee, a person who I've worked with before. I go to Google, you just type it in, and usually you can find their contact information before, but if you can't find their contact information on the site, you look at LinkedIn, and a lot of professionals have LinkedIn, and I highly recommend it to people my age, younger, older. I loved LinkedIn. This is not a paid ad by them, but fantastic. And then Grammarly, of course, like I said before. So these are my ride or die tips. Welcome. So this is kind of the foundation of how I talk and write to people in emails. I like to have 3 main avenues that I kind of think about in my mind. So we have curiosity, authenticity, and confidence. Basically, curiosity is asking the practice of why. One of my favorite companies that I've been able to work with was Farmer Brothers Coffee, and I found out about them. They're not like a main Starbucks place that you see, but Farmer Brothers Coffee is, it's basically the distributor to places such as hotels and everything that have all the coffee packets, and they had plastic stir sticks. And I found out about Farmer Brothers Coffee because one of my tires in my car was not working, had a hole or something. I don't know. I do not remember exactly what happened to my tire, but I was in a tire place, and I went to go get a beverage, and I saw all these little plastic stir sticks, like little straws wrapped in plastic, just there for my convenience. And I was so mad at that. I was just like, why do we have this? Like, why is this a thing? So it was my curiosity of being like, why, and then I had to deep down think about why I really cared about this message and why I thought I was a person to really ask them why. And I think it was just like everything in my life that I was just like, I'm so frustrated no one knows about this issue, because this was before people understood, like in the main media, that plastic straws are bad. And then I was just like, you know what, if no one else is going to say it, I'm just going to say it. Sorry, but just got to do it. So that was kind of the confidence within. I was just so mad. So this was before I'd worked with any other companies. After emailing Farmer Brothers Coffee, I went on like an email spree, and I just started emailing everyone I saw doing some sort of injustice, and that I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to email all of them. So I went on a big email writing campaign, and I suggest you doing the same. It's perfect time. We're in COVID, not a lot of other stuff to do. So just this time to really just let people know from your heart why you're mad about this and how why they should solve it, what's it affecting, and just be really honest in your message, and definitely have it come from your perspective and explaining who you are and like why do you think you're the best person to say this right now. Maybe you're not the best person to say it, but you're at least someone who really cares about it. So kind of thinking of these 3 main pillars of what I think about to go through my letter writings, I want you to apply it to this ad that I saw. You might not be able to see the letters, but it says, "Be more cool." And it has this gentleman who I'm sure is a very lovely man, but he's drinking out of a straw from a wine cup, whatever you call them. And he was just, trying to live his best life. And then I happened to come into it and was like, this is not the way we should go, I'm sure Tri-Cities, Washington is very lovely. I've personally never been there, but I did reach out to them regarding this ad, and they were very sweet. But basically, so you're looking at this and you're like, okay, why? You know, you're curious, who made this ad? Why is this a thing? And it really hit me because this is based in Seattle at the Seattle airport. And Seattle is very known as a green place. You know, they did the whole Strawless in Seattle campaign there. So it's just kind of like, why? You know? And then my authenticity, which is kind of like, you know, maybe they don't know better. Like, how can I help you? Like, this is not cool in my opinion. You know, I think if you want a cool image, like, go for something else. But so I reached out to them and my confidence was kind of like, I just want to help you. So those were the mindsets. So this is one of the things that I was sent continuously by other people who had gone to the Seattle airport. Surprisingly, a lot of people like to send me things and they're like, get on it. I'm like, got it, will do. So I have never really told this story, but it's just a fun one. And by the time I had written this letter, it was my senior year of high school, so a lot more people knew about the straws. And I must say, looking back at this letter, I was a lot more sassier than I typically am in my letters. But it was senior year. We all know, maybe some of you aren't at senior year, but senior year is like stress level to the max, you know, trying to figure out where to go to college. It's a whole ordeal. So I sent them this letter and the response was very nice. As you're aware, Washington State is known as a champion of change for the ocean community. I still stand by that. To cut it short, okay, first of all, let me preface this by there's more to this email in the beginning half of it, and there's more to it at the end. I just took the middle. To cut it short, I'm reaching out to you not only for Mother Nature, but as a teenager, and I hope to share some insight into your ad. While I'm not old enough to drink wine yet, I'm still not, I'm old enough to tell you when something is relevant and your ad has missed the mark. In today's society, more people are aware of single-use plastic, and this ad is unacceptable. I know, bold. I was going through it. I have personally not seen this ad. However, it has been brought to my attention multiple times by different age groups based off the fact that people are more aware of the issue of single-use plastic straws. My ask of you is that you reevaluate your marketing strategy when combining the word cool with an image of single-use plastic. To help you better understand the issue of single-use plastic straws, please consider watching Dignity Health's commercial, Let's Reduce Straw Usage Together. And then I gave them the link, and then I gave them a link to another resource that I work on. But, you know, sometimes, typically I'm not this sassy, but sometimes you just gotta let them know how it is. And I still thought the original ad was not cool to this day. I got a lovely response back from the president of Tri-Cities, Washington, and we talked on the phone, and he had no idea that this was an issue, or like why associating a plastic item that's very harmful to ecosystems and just kind of everything, especially climate change and the emissions that are created to make a straw. He had no idea. The correlation was not there for him. So me being me, I set out and I hopefully informed him and he could inform other people. But I definitely made an enemy with the poor editor of this ad because they were forced to you know, edit it out. And so now we just got a cool smirk going on, which I think is a lot more cooler. But this was just kind of like a simple win that you can do. You know, just having your voice heard is just something else. Definitely reaching out and just kind of voicing your honest opinion. You can create change like this.
I just want to pop in and say, I can't believe you've never told this story before, because I think that this whole story needs to be told many, many, many more times after this. I'm like, I can't stop laughing. It's very, very good. Very good.
You know, Laura, I was like, what's something that's fresh and new that I've not told before? Oh my God, the Be More Cool ad. I feel like this is a very attainable first step for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, his face at the end just says it all. That's how you feel after you get a company to remove a plastic straw from an ad. That's how you feel.
You feel more cool and you be more cool, you know?
Exactly.
Perfect. So much love to Tri-Cities, Washington for, really being champions of the ad space, because this new ad is much more cooler. And I think it resembles their city a lot more mature, like wine, whatever you want to say. But props to them for sure. And then, so not everyone has the same background as you. Like the man I talked to from Tri-Cities, he did not understand that the issue of plastic and plastic straws and having them associated to positive messaging, he didn't understand that. He didn't understand that that was an issue, and that kind of perpetuates this mental ability for people to be like, oh yeah, plastic straws aren't bad, like they're cool, like, so it's just really understanding that not everyone has the same background as you. And I put this image here because it's an image that I took going to my grandma's house. This is what we see in my hometown. I'm from a very agricultural area. The sky looks beautiful there, and you see a lot of just kind of, I don't know, agro grows where they grow produce for the world. So it's just understanding that not everyone has the same background as you. And I really face this challenge for a lot of people, especially in my hometown, because they didn't, even though I'm only like 45 minutes from the ocean, people in my hometown were very hesitant to change their ways and accept change. I was known as a straw girl in high school till my graduation date. I was walking across the stage and someone yelled straw girl, and I was just like, like it's always gonna be me, and proudly. So it's kind of understanding that not everyone has the same background as you, and some people just have no idea, and it's like ignorance is bliss to a point, and then when you know it, you just got to share with everyone, because this wasn't something that we could easily let go, especially the issue of plastic. And I feel like now a lot of people, at least when I was starting, didn't know that straws are bad. So when people find out that I've done straw work, they're like, yeah, but there's so many other issues. I'm like, yes, there are a ton of issues, and we need multiple people working on different ones. So now I'm kind of facing, I really want to tackle the issue of people not understanding that plastic production is actually directly correlated to climate change, and kind of the extraction process to get plastic of oil causes a ton of CO2, and then everything that takes to that. So that's currently what I'm working on, but just not everyone has the same background as you, and you just kind of have to go into it understanding that. And you just got to act as a helping hand. Like, I'm not here to shame anyone. I was a little brutal in my last email, I admit it, but I was just truly trying to help them. And that's my only goal for companies, is to just, I'd never want to shame them per se. I want to act as a helping hand and really help them build up the messaging. So the effective messaging that I have found is say it in a positive manner, and they are not only more likely to respond to you, but more likely to work with you. So positive, the way you're conducting business is currently not sustainable in the long run due to X, Y, and Z. And the negative is just straight up telling them you are killing the planet by. And the negative side is not a lot of people want to help, like to work with you, or at least reach out to you if they feel shamed and overwhelmed by your message, because they're just like, oh, this is so negative, I don't know how to respond. So basically, the way that I always go into messages is kind of share with them why I'm curious, kind of my authentic passion, just being like, I've worked in an aquarium, I understand the science behind plastic pollution, and I really feel like you need to see this message that I'm sending out to you, and then just have the confidence to do it. It's like, hello, yes, I'm writing to you as a 16-year-old, and this is why you should care. So I started just like aggressively emailing people when I was 16, and now I'm 19. So it's been a wild ride, and I've been able to work with some truly incredible people from it. So the big thing I always get is, so you haven't heard a response yet. And let me tell you, I've written hundreds of emails at this point. Also, I never have a direct outline of what I'm going to say. I always write it very personal to the person I'm writing it to, because if I just have one thing, it's not going to cover all the bases of not only how this action makes me feel, but why they should change it. Like every situation is very unique. I had just reached out to a fashion company over this COVID situation. I had just reached out to a fashion company and they were selling glitter phone cases. And I was like, okay, this is very frustrating because they were marketing it as sustainable. And I was like, that's not, it's a little like, So I was very like, okay, well, let me talk to you. So then I LinkedIn, I sent a message through LinkedIn to the CEO. And then I also sent a message to their sustainability person because the CEO hadn't responded. And then they were very nice. They'd gone back to me. They didn't even think of this issue as an issue. So they were very receptive and they're like, definitely going to bring it up to my team. Thank you so much for making it aware to us. So that's a very positive thing. But a lot of times you don't hear back. But a story of mine that took literally 3 years to make was my path to Sesame Street. I had initially reached out to Sesame Street on July 20th, 2017, asking them about kind of if they're going to do anything plastic pollution related, like ocean related, and I did not hear back originally. I was like, okay, cool, got it. This is when I was on my emailing spree, emailing everyone I could think about. And then I had the opportunity to work with other companies. In the meanwhile, I'd worked with Dignity Health to reduce their plastic straw usage and the hospital healthcare industry. And that was really a learning experience and kind of seeing how even in healthcare you can kind of reform the plastic usage you do. And just like the upfront, you don't even realize how many plastic straws like a cafeteria and hospital uses for unnecessary plastic use. And always having straws available for those who medically need them is important, but just kind of eliminating it for us of those who don't necessarily need one. So reached out to them in 2017, didn't hear anything. I followed up, and my follow-up letter was kind of along the lines of like, I hope you're doing well, just following up on an email I sent you last year. And a lot of people, when I was on Sesame Street, they're like, oh my God, you asked me on Sesame Street? I'm like, no, I just like wanted to know what was happening. So I updated them on everything I was doing, how my SCR 139 resolution was going to Senate floor, just kind of overall informing them of the change I had made. So that way, hoping they would take me more seriously. And I would continue to be a pest in a sense, and just kind of letting him know. And it was all about empowerment, making a huge change. I even made a Sesame Street joke in there.
I was going to say, I love that you said it would be perfect for Oscar, because I think that was probably the nail in the coffin for them to be like, okay, yeah, let's get this girl on board, right?
Yeah, like, she knows the characters. This is beautiful. I grew up watching Sesame Street, big fan of Sesame Street. So definitely like personalizing it and making it, I sent this through LinkedIn, so that's why it's all like straight. But so I emailed them, and then I was lucky enough in October of 2018 to be named a National Gold Award Girl Scout by Girl Scouts. So that's 1 in 10 in the nation who kind of act as representatives for other fellow Gold Award Girl Scouts. And they all go to New York. So I was lucky enough to go to New York. And then while I was in New York, that's where Sesame Street is based out of. I got a meeting with Sesame Street, and I was just really there to just kind of figure out when they're going to bring up the ocean, if they're like, how are they going to message it to like extremely young minds who are very, sorry if you hear doggos in the back, but like really young kids, on how this is kind of like the prime age to at least introduce them to different topics. And I was just curious, like, are you going to bring up the ocean at all? Like, what's your plan? So then when I got the meeting there, it was then kind of shared that I would be the person introducing the ocean. And I was like, what? Like, excuse me? And it was wild. And then they followed up in February. We got to film my senior year of high school. And it was so hard to keep this a secret. I don't know if I had to keep it a secret for as long as I did, but I was just like, I could not believe it was happening. And then it just aired this year, so in 2020. So you'll reach out to a company, you might not hear anything for like a year like I did, and then it just takes this like unexpected turn, and it's a very rare outcome, but it's a very, you know, plausible outcome for so many different things. So I'm just gonna share my little Sesame Street clip because why not? It's my little N is for nature. Might take a while.
I love this clip. I've seen it several times. For those of you who may have not seen it before, it is precious. And I just think that's a really cool story as well. I mean, we'll play the clip and we can talk about this afterwards, but I just think that it is very true. You might not get 100 emails back. You might get none, but then sometimes you do and something really cool could come out of it. And then sometimes you end up on Sesame Street too. So you never know.
It's just being persistent and letting them know that this is a lifelong passion of yours and that you're in it for the long haul, you know? I had no idea taking me on Sesame Street, but just like always sharing your message and your passion and why you're curious can take you to wonderful places. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Let me.
The letter N. N is for nature.
So what do you guys think nature is? What is nature?
Nature is where the plants live and like the environment is.
Yeah, so it's kind of everything surrounding. Nature is all the plants, insects, and other things outside that are not made by people, like jellyfish, penguins, and sea otters. When I was a little girl, my parents took me to
Shelby, I'm not sure what happened. I do not hear audio.
Oh, okay, let me go back. Woo.
You're about, 30 seconds. There you go. Try again.
When I was a little girl, my parents took me to the aquarium in Monterey. It was there that I fell in love with all the different creatures in the ocean. We do a lot of different things to help the ocean, and I think you guys could do it too. You can pick up trash, use reusable water bottles. Do you guys think you can do that?
Yes!
Let's go do a beach cleanup. Okay, ready? Let's go over here, guys. Do you see this piece of trash?
I found one.
It's important to keep the beaches and oceans clean so that fish and sea creatures have a safe and healthy place to live. Can I put this in your guys' bag? Good job, Judah.
N is for nature. The letter N.
So that was my Sesame Street appearance. Even though it wasn't explaining the issue of plastic pollution, I was beyond honored that I could at least show the ocean to kids who are very landlocked and just who never have experienced the ocean. Even though I'm about 45 minutes from the ocean, some of my peers have never even seen the ocean. So it's just completely an honor to even be able to present that. And also the cute little boy, Judah, he just had his birthday. So shout out to Judah. Oh, that was the thing? Okay. So again, to the foundations, it's all about being curious, authentic, and confident. And I think, like I showed before, you can really use these to your advantage and just kind of just show who you are as a person. And I feel like you can use this messaging skill to literally any message. You see a lot of injustice we currently have going on. Definitely use that for whatever you're passionate about. A lot of people have been sharing links to email Congress people and senators about different issues that they find really important. But they have said, even like staffers, they always say to write your own emails because it's so important to show why you care. And, you know, calling them and just making your voice heard, especially in the political realm, to have representation is beyond important. And for those of you who can vote, this will be my first time voting in a presidential election. Very excited, but definitely vote. And, you know, you can be like me at your school campus, be known as a straw girl or a straw boy or just straw human, you know, just kind of like, if you're so passionate about things, I feel like you don't get affected by those sort of nicknames. You're like, oh my God, thank you. You notice what I'm doing. But I've definitely built up a thick skin And I feel like a lot of people come into this and then they get some backlash, which is very unfair. And it's just kind of understanding that not everyone will share the same views as you, and it's important to educate people to understand so they understand what you're doing. So that's my little spiel about that. And then some upcoming events that I am working on. I know we still have a lot of time, but I would love to talk with Laura. So some of the things I'm working on a campaign called One Thing, and it's one thing for nature, and it's helping build back better. And it's kind of the idea, if we all commit to one thing, like what your one thing will do, and like what can we do after, COVID and everyone is released back into the wild, like what can we do to make sure our world is a better place? Because everyone says we want to go back to normal, but honestly, normal was not working before. So it's just having people understand, we have so much time to self-reflect. What will you do? I have totally changed my skincare routine to be eco-friendly and just a lot of other things in my life. But it can be even larger than that. It's like one thing I will use my voice to show systemic racism within environmental communities, and just like overall like these issues within these communities that are not only racial based but also environmental based. So it's just educating yourself and learning how you can build one thing and all that goodness. And then we also have Plastic Free July. So basically keeping the mindset of, I'm going to try to go plastic free a whole month. Awesome sauce, just like how you can really make an impact through your personal usage of plastic. No Straw November is very much about, and Plastic Free July is very much about how can one thing really equal up to a large amount. And No Straw November, it's symbolizing the straw as almost like the gateway for people to understand that they have more to do. Because if you use one straw during every day, or use a couple of straws during every day, and you really keep a total of how many straws you use, you realize that you're using far more than you realize. And it's kind of understanding that convenience is, this term like convenience kills, and we really want to help mentally change that. And then so my last slide, I believe, is just questions. I don't know if there's any, or if you have any questions, Laura. I talked really fast. I would love just to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, totally. I love you so much, and I love the message of using your voice and your power as a young person to influence these companies and organizations that have a lot of influence over our world as well, right? And kind of one question that I have for you, and this is something that we have talked about before, you and I, is I think one of the first things that I learned growing up as a youth activist was that the younger you are, the more times you reach out to one of those organizations, one of those corporations, the more likely they are to pay attention to you. Now, you're 19, you're still not old enough to drink the really cool wine that I was sipping through a straw.
Right.
But as you're getting older, do you find that some of these organizations and some of these corporations can almost get a little bit more condescending as you get older, almost because they're taking you more seriously, but also taking you less seriously? I don't know. Do you feel any of that at all?
Yeah, totally. I mean, to kind of relate it to a background that we both share, because we're both Girl Scouts. When you're young and you try selling cookies, everyone will buy from you because they're like, how am I going to say no to this precious child offering me cookies? Like, absolutely not. And then when you start trying to sell cookies when you're older, people are not afraid to tell you no, and they'll just be like, no, like straight up, I don't want these. And you're like, oh, but I'm young and cute, but no. So definitely, I think one of the biggest things that I want to make clear to other people is that if you have the opportunity to meet people, like I had amazing opportunity to meet Starbucks and like a lot of different corporations and companies, you got to go in it alone. You just like, a lot of people like to bring, like a parent or someone else with them. And like, typically they like, I know my parents love me so much, like absolutely love my parents to the moon. But if I were to take them into a corporate meeting, they love me so much they wouldn't be able to stop talking about me, so it would almost in a way kind of be besides the point to to bring them, you know, because everyone would be focusing their attention to them because they're adults, you know. So it's like, if you have the opportunity, just go on it alone, you know, because you just really got to show that it's coming from you and that it's not like someone else using it. But definitely when you're younger, people are more game to help you, you know.
100%. And I know this is your panel and I don't want to take time away to
No,
tell
go for it.
but that is so true. That is so true, because the first time I lobbied Congress, my mom was with me and I got so mad at her for not letting me talk. The first time,
gotta stop, you know?
Mom, just stop. Like, I'm here to do my thing. Like, just let me do my thing.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, I'll leave out like an accomplishment of mine. And my mom's like, she's also done this, and this. I'm like, I love you so much.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet.
You know, it's like, so definitely that's like, if you're taking anything away from this, besides like the 3 main points of just kind of like mentally how to be, you just gotta go in it and own it. There's like, my parents, my whole family got to go to New York for Girl Scouts. When my parents dropped me off at Sesame Street, apparently I didn't even look back. I was just like, okay, bye. Took the elevator up. And yeah, it was just
awesome.
It's just like, you know, just gotta really owning it. But definitely dealing with companies when you're older is much more of a challenge, especially being a college kid, because I feel like they're like, for some reason, either they're gonna be very nice to you because you're a college kid, or they're gonna be like, no, you know. they'll be like very, very straight up, because they're like, oh, she's in college, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, I've been doing this since I was so young. Also, a weird thing that I'm also like,
take really important people by surprise though, when you are that young and you're able to stand your ground and hold that space for yourself in those kinds of situations. And that's kind of going back to another question I wanted to ask you, because I know I personally deal with a lot of social anxiety, and as a youth activist who is no longer really considered a youth, I definitely am, you kind of have to adjust as you go, right? And so what I wanted to ask you was kind of like, how, I know it has to do with your 3 pillars, your 3 main pillars, but how are you able to overcome that kind of social anxiety? Like, what are your methods? What do you think about to not kind of freak out before you go into these really important meetings?
Right. That's a really great question. I'm really glad you asked it. One, like my first speaking, like massive speaking engagement that I've ever did, it was at Dreamforce hosted by Salesforce. And I got to speak on the CEO panel about like ocean plastic and kind of things affecting the ocean. And, you know, I had a very, like, I got to walk on stage, I got to say my message, but if you would have seen me behind the scenes, I was like so close to crying. I was so nervous. Everyone was looking at me like, should we put her on stage? And then I was just like literally freaking out. It was my first time like speaking other than in front of my classroom setting, like a presentation. And even those can be like horrifying. Like sometimes I find those presentations way worse than like speaking engagements, just because you're with your peers. So this one, it was like in a massive theater. Everyone was there. Luckily, I could not really see the audience, but behind the stage, complete fear. And as soon as I got on the stage, it was like a whole alter ego I didn't even know, was just like, not today. But definitely beginning out, it's so hard to just like really own it. And I feel like it's because I've had a lot of other stuff just kind of accumulate where I've had to be really confident and just kind of like know what I was doing. I was in a really severe car accident when I was younger. You know, my mom got admitted to the hospital, and then they just kind of left me there, and I was like, so I've had events where I've had to like really just kind of like own up and mature. So like I had to check myself in the hospital, and like I feel like just like random life events I've had have just really made me just kind of own who I am. And you know, I get a lot of Facebook trolls, and they just say really negative things about you or like what you look like. I'm always constantly said I look like Hannah Baker from 13 Reasons Why. So it's just kind of taking these different things that you're told and just being like, whatever, fuel to the fire of passion to just keep going. Even though it's not a negative comment, it's just a weird one I always get. But the social anxiety, I feel like it's just like, it can definitely be crippling at times, because you're like, I just don't know what to do, or like, I just feel so uncomfortable. But for some reason, I literally put on a thing. It's like, if no one else is going to do it, I'm just going to do it. And then I just become like this person who's like, your opinion does not hurt me in any way. And I remember I went to Ocean's Day for the Capitol in Sacramento, and like everyone in my group, I was with all like adults, and they were all kind of like walking around this like main question we're asking this person, and they're trying to be really polite, and then no one was like asking why they're voting no on this really important bill. And I literally was just like, okay, well, but why? Like, why are you not incorporating this into what you vote on in legislation? And then everyone in my group was just like, oh my god, like this like kid is asking this. So it's, I don't know, I don't know if that answered your question at all, Laura, but I feel like I just put on a thing where I'm just like, whatever, like I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, no, it totally answered my question. And it's when that feeling before you walk out on stage, right? It's once you're out there, it's fine. It's just the leading up to it, right? I did public speaking for a living for the last year and a half of my life, basically. And I still got nervous, right before everything shut down for COVID. And it's a learning process for sure. But that kind of also goes back to when you were talking about how you write your emails. Is like, I couldn't stop laughing at the email that you sent to the company, the Twin Tri-Cities, whatever. That like sassiness, it makes more sense when you're younger, but when you get older, you have this like crazy anxiety. Like, I don't want to come across as unprofessional or rude or, contradictory, whatever it is. And it's so fun to know that so many people in the youth activist space are kind of growing into that as well. And we're all just trying to figure out how to do it as best as we can. And I think that's the main takeaway, for at least for me, that the main takeaway for that is just be yourself and don't think too hard about what other people think of you. Like, understand that not everybody's opinion actually matters. Yeah.
Just like, you just gotta go with the punches. And it's like, if I'm not living my life fully authentically, and if I'm living it to fit into other people's standards, am I truly living? You just kind of gotta own what you're doing and know it's for the better. And of course, the ocean and just the world is so much bigger than one person, and it's important to recognize other people that are doing change, just regarding anything. But yeah, it's just like, especially transitioning into college from high school, I was like, how the heck am I gonna do No Straw November while also managing midterms and like everything? I only took one AP class because I had, during my senior year and junior year, I was just like going crazy for Junior Ocean Gardens, and I was like going all these places, meeting all these different people. So I never really had time to do that. So I was extremely nervous going into an academic like curriculum that was much more intense in high school, and especially at Berkeley, where you just have the standard of everyone's like, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna suck, whatever, like deal with it. I love Berkeley, would not go anywhere else, go Bears. But it's definitely just like, we're all in this like transitioning time, and it's fun to see the younger kids like really kind of step up to where you were, and it's like, it's just a process. And I think it's going to be really exciting, and I really love our generation for being so just open and just like really being like, just embracing all these different issues that we're seeing with a grain of salt, being like, oh yeah, we can totally change this. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna happen.
I like that you said that too, because we do have a question in the Q&A chat here. How do you stay motivated? And I like what you said about the generation, our generation, kind of Gen Z, millennial, that kind of weird part of.
I know you're more Gen Z. Let's be. You're too cool to be.
1997, baby. Bailey and I talk about that all the time. But it is interesting because we, as Gen Zers, I believe, will be facing burnout much sooner and much faster than our millennial counterparts. So to kind of go to Katie Hamilton's question, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated currently, and how do you think that the youth movement will be able to sustain itself?
Right. I mean, let's be real. Being inside for COVID and just like knowing you can't go anywhere, for the better. Like, I definitely feel like everyone should stay inside, wear masks, please be healthy and safe so we can all return back to a better normal. But just like knowing you can't go anywhere, and I feel like I'm someone who just like loves to go to random places. You know, when I was back in Berkeley, like public transport, loved it, just going random places. So I feel like that really took away from my motivation to do a lot. But luckily, I had the opportunity to just see the ocean yesterday and just kind of experience that. And I feel like I get recharged by seeing the ocean and just really talking to my peers and kind of taking a moment to step back and be like, okay, this really sucks. Like, I could complain about it all I want, but there's so many more things that are happening that are challenging people. I'm still lucky to have my family safe and healthy, you know. So I think what really motivates me is to just think about what I'm very grateful for and what I'm very blessed about. You know, I decided to do online school during this, so it's been a little tricky to stay motivated for, but yeah, same with you, because you're doing online school. Well, unfortunately, well, it's like in line. It's
to talk about how many missing assignments I have. We're not going to talk about that.
You know, it's fine. It's fine. You know, we're living in such a unique transitional time. And I really feel like the youth movements, I love art. Like, I really am grateful to be in the generation I'm in, because so many more people talk about mental health. And it's much more normal to be like, I'm feeling sad. Here's why I'm feeling sad. So I feel like our movements will kind of fluctuate, but I feel like a lot of people have each other's backs and supporting our mental health and really making sure that, you know, it's okay to feel burnout and just really acknowledge why you're feeling this and how can you help it. You know, sometimes you just need to take a break, and that's fine. No one can be on 100% of the time, you know.
I agree with that. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I think something that I've done in my career is really lean on my peers, because I know when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and like I can't handle everything that's going on, I have to just kind of take a deep breath, take a step back and say, hey, I know like 400 other people who are working just as hard as I am on very much the same kind of set of topics, and I can't do all of that by myself. I need to have those other people there, to, you know, actually do something substantial, but also to know that I can take a step back without feeling bad. And I think that's something that when you say it's good that we all talk about our mental health, I think everybody could talk about their mental health more.
Right.
No, there's no shame, at least when you're talking to me, like there's no shame in admitting that, you know, maybe you're not happy right now, or maybe you are feeling really anxious right now. And I think that the youth movement is a really wonderful place to look for inspiration, but also to look for like hope and relief, almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've sent you plenty of like random Snapchats where I have like a cry coming out of my eye, you know, just having each other's back, super important. And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And then we have another question from Cody Hatzer. That's a interesting name, Cody. Wow. What advice do you have for people who want to take action but don't consider themselves activists?
Great question. You know, I actually know a lot of people who are extreme change makers and are like, I'm not an activist. And I'm like, you know, you can identify however you want. But to really make change, you can make change in such a positive way in just like the smallest actions. You know, skipping a single-use plastic straw and telling people why you're skipping one can like create such an incredible mental, you know, like mind blown idea for someone else. One way that I've been able to kind of see people make change without identifying as activists, I worked with my high school while I was still a student there on a styrofoam ban. And I had plenty of peers working with me as well who would not identify as an activist, but were still taking it upon themselves to reach out to people like in charge and to really just kind of at least voice their opinion as to why we didn't need styrofoam on campus. And luckily my administration was very kind, and they adopted a no styrofoam, I don't know what you call it on campus, a bill on campus. I'm not quite sure, but they did that. You know, you don't have to put a label on what you are. That's up to you to identify how you are.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Now it looks like we have just a few minutes left. So if you have any final comments that you want to add, anything else you want to talk about before we let you go?
Yeah, so if anyone wants any Junior Ocean Guardians activity books, or just kind of you have an issue or something you're really passionate about, please feel free to reach out. I do help a lot of Girl Scouts out with their Gold Award projects, and I always love doing that. I know Laura's a Girl Scout too, so that's really fun. But just if anyone has any questions, you know, it's a really stressful time. I wanted everyone to just really take care of their mental health and just know that we're on it together. Hopefully just kind of reiterating that the one thing that you can do to build back better, and just knowing that and taking time to really understand the ocean issues, but also, you know, the Black Lives Matter issues we see, and just kind of how those two worlds really are intertwined, and how all of these issues can be tied back to one another. And just, I don't know, just take this time to learn and grow and see something that's much bigger than yourself. Because this issue, you might be feeling really stressed out, but it's so much bigger than ourselves, and we all have to really at least do like a little thing to help it out, you know?
100%. Well, thank you so much, Shelby, for taking time out of your day to come hang out with us. I have loved talking to you on camera, face to face almost. And if you have any more resources, any more links or anything, just go ahead and send those in the group chat.
Okay.
But other than that, thank you again so much for joining us. We're going to move on to our next panel here.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura.
Yeah.